Hi guys, this is Mike. Today I'm going to make a video about how to get a random sequence out of your sequencer. This is a topic that's been on the Facebook group posts lately. I apologize in advance. This is going to be a very ugly video compared to what I usually do because I'm not going to do a lot of editing. So put simply, my definition of a random sequence of notes means that you have a sequencer of some kind. And you can see here I have a Korg sequencer, but any .com sequencer can easily do the same thing. A random sequence to me means that you have a set of program notes in the sequencer, but you want to get them in a random order, and you'd like that to be at some kind of regular tempo, whether that tempo is controlled by the synthesizer or by a digital audio workstation. So in this example, I've got a patch here, a lot of things going on that don't really matter. There's only two things that really do matter, which is what's triggering the sequencer to make notes, which in this case, I'm using a Q106 oscillator down here at the bottom. You can see it right here blinking away. That's what is going to generate triggers for the sequencer. So it's going to trigger envelope generators, and importantly, it's also going to trigger the quantizer and when it quantizes notes. So I'm running my sequencer into a Q171, 172. Actually, I'm only using the Q172 here. I have it set to a minor scale, and I have it transposing with the keyboard. It's a little hard to see, but what's important here is this gate in. That gate in is finding its way from the same oscillator that's triggering the envelope generator. So that will tell the quantizer when it should sample its input and produce a note, and that's important, because without that you really can't get a random sequence of notes. Above that Q106 there's another Q106 which is going to be used to actually clock the sequencer. So if you have I think it's a Q119, you actually have to do this also. So I'm going to eventually use that to clock the sequencer. But so you can hear what's going on in the sequence, so it's an H-stage sequence up here. A little hard to see, but there's lights, LEDs blinking there, 1 through 8, and then it's repeating. And what I'll do is I'll turn the volume up over here so you can hear the sequence of notes. And again, apologize for the audio quality. I do have the keyboard set to transpose this, so I can go like this and get transposition going on. But that's not really that important to this patch, just to show you that it's there. So right now I'm not only triggering the sequencer from this oscillator on the bottom, but because of this little Y connector, I'm also triggering the sequencer up here. So you can see it's marching along in step with the bottom oscillator. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, instead of clocking the sequencer from the bottom oscillator, I'll clock it from a different oscillator, the one on top. You can hear right now it's not clocking at all, so it's not moving. Now I'll put it into an oscillator at the top. So now this LED at the top is clocking the sequencer, and you can see it's marching along. And if you can hear the note sequence, it sounds different now because I'm sampling at one rate and advancing the sequence at a different rate. And you might think that's random, but it's actually not, because if you sample one periodic signal with another periodic signal, you can only get a periodic signal. It may take a long time to repeat the sequence, but it will repeat. So in order to make the sequence random, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top oscillator here and I'm going to randomly change its frequency through this exponential input. Right now the level's set to 0, but to do that I need to get a random voltage going into that exponential frequency connector, which I'm going to get way over here, not surprisingly from a noise generator using the low frequency output. But I'm going to condition that. I'm going to send it into a rectifier so I only get positive voltages. Then it's going to go into a sample and hold input here, and the output's going to find its way all the way back over to this input in our sequencer clock. Now how often it changes frequency is determined by the internal sample rate of the sample and hold. So this is internal, and that little light shows you how often it's changing. If I go over here now to my sampler clock, you can see right now it's still beating regularly because I haven't done anything with this level knob. I'll turn it up to 10, and when I do that, you'll notice the LED is now blinking at a rate that's much different than it was before. And if I go up here and look at the sequencer, I'll see that the lights are marching across at a rate that's very different, maybe a little bit hard to see. in the video, but this thing is moving faster and slower. If I alter this frequency somewhat, you'll see it a little easier. Actually, this LED may be easier to see than the other one. So here's the LED you want to watch. As I change that frequency, sometimes it'll blink slowly, other times very quickly. Alright, so I'll turn it back up to quick. And now what you're hearing is really a random sequence, but from a set of preset notes. So now if I play along here, you now get a random sequence of notes, but from the ones that you selected. Now this will work up to very high rates. I can turn this frequency up a lot, trigger quickly, and all I have to do is make sure I turn this other one up even more. And I'll get a very fast sequence, but it is a random sequence. And that's all there is to it. I hope that was helpful. Sorry for the messy quality, but it's a quickie. Thanks. Bye.